The evil was destroying the world, and the humanity was at brink of collapse. Until a woman stood up to protect the oppressed ones on that particular day. Welcome back to Warner Series. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. She thought she had a plan. Find a quiet spot, hide away, and give birth in peace. But life clearly had other ideas. Just when she was trying to catch her breath, a flash of steel came slicing through the air straight at her. She shot up, instincts kicking in, ready to defend herself. Each strike she delivered in the heat of battle made the baby inside her squirm like it knew its time was near. She took out one attacker, but before she could even breathe, two more enemies popped out from behind. With no hesitation, she rammed her long spear into one of them, then flung it through the air, catching the second guy off guard and dropping him too. But things only got worse. 3 more enemies came rushing toward her. She wasn't about to go down without a fight. Even with a baby inside her and her body barely holding it together, she fought like a storm. No one could touch her, not even when they outnumbered her 5-1. Eventually, she dragged herself behind a rock, completely drained. Ripping her pants apart, she did what she had to do. With the last ounce of strength she had, she gave birth. She never would have guessed her child would be the reincarnation of the legendary dragon, a being who 3,000 years ago gave up its life to trap a monstrous evil known as the Dark One. Now, after all these years, the Dark One's prison was weakening, and the world was in trouble again. Only the Dragon Reborn had the power to stop him. That's where Wherein came in, Nynaeve Sedai, a powerful magic user sworn to protect the balance of the world. Along with her fierce protector, Logain, she was on a mission to find the Dragon Reborn. Aes Sedai like Wherein were known far and wide. They weren't just magicians. They were guardians of order, peace, and power. Their warders, like Logain, were fiercely loyal fighters, bonded to them for life. Word had reached Wherein that the Dragon Reborn might be hiding in a quiet little village called Emmen's Field. So off they went, once again chasing fate. When they arrived, the village looked peaceful enough. Kids running around, families laughing. Coincidentally, it was Egwene's coming-of-age celebration, and the whole village was in a festive mood. But dark clouds were forming, both in the sky and in destiny. Suddenly, a pair of strangers entered the tavern. Their presence shifted the room's energy completely. It was Wherein and Logain. The moment Wherein flashed her serpent ring, the mark of an Aes Sedai, the tavern owner got serious and offered them the best accommodations. Word spread fast. The villagers whispered nervously. Everyone knew the arrival of an Aes Sedai usually meant something big and often dangerous was about to happen. The next day, Logain stumbled upon a pile of goat carcasses twisted into the shape of a comma. It was no coincidence. It was a message. The Dark One had begun his move. Back in the village, Wherein had her eyes on 4 young people. One of them, she believed, might be the Dragon Reborn. There was Egwene, full of determination and bravery. Then there was Rand, a quiet boy who lived in the mountains with his father. Egwene and Rand had a soft spot for each other. Then there was Perrin, a strong, quiet blacksmith, and finally Matt, a mischievous gambler who never took anything seriously. Despite watching them closely, Wherein couldn't tell who the Dragon Reborn was. There were just too few clues. That night, while everyone was enjoying the spring celebration, things took a deadly turn. Out of nowhere, a boy got stabbed clean through the chest by a spear-like weapon. Chaos erupted. Beastmen, vicious creatures with no mercy, poured into the village, killing left and right. Nynaeve, the village healer, tried to protect Egwene, but they were spotted. With nowhere to run, Nynaeve pulled out a dagger and tried to fight off a beastman. It didn't go well. They were quickly cornered, ready to die. But right when hope seemed lost, a blinding light ripped through the beastman. It was Wherein and Logain. Wherein began casting spells while Logain fought by her side, defending her with deadly precision. When an Aes Sedai gathers magic, they can't be interrupted, and that's where the warder comes in. The villagers, inspired by their bravery, joined in. Together, they managed to take down one of the creatures. Meanwhile, far up in the mountains, Rand and his father were attacked too. To Rand's shock, his father revealed incredible sword-fighting skills. Together, they fought off their attackers, but it left Rand with more questions than answers. Back in the village, Nynaeve was ambushed and taken while trying to save others. Egwene could only watch helplessly as her friend was dragged away. Moraine, still fighting, got slashed across the shoulder. She winced but didn't stop. In a burst of power, she used the broken walls and shattered bricks around her like flying weapons, tearing through beastmen with pure force. When the last beastman dropped, Moraine collapsed, the building behind her crumbling too. Lon ran to her, shielding her from the debris. By dawn, the battle was over. Emmen's field was barely standing. Later, Moraine used her powers to heal Rand's father. But instead of thanking her, Rand lashed out, blaming her for bringing this nightmare to their doorstep. Moraine explained that the beastmen had come looking for the dragon reborn, and one of the four of them was that person. They didn't bring the danger. They were already in its crosshairs. Before they could argue further, another army of beastmen arrived near the village. Moraine told the four young people to pack their things. They had to leave immediately or the village would be wiped off the map. None of them wanted to leave home, but they also couldn't risk more innocent lives. So they followed Moraine into the unknown, their old lives left behind forever. Moraine led them to a ferry. Beastmen were known to fear deep water, so she paid the ferryman double to get them across the river fast. Just as they were preparing to leave, a terrifying creature appeared, blind and massive. It was the leader of the beastmen, a shadowy being known as the Hidden Demon. Lon quickly cut the ropes holding the boat to the dock, and Moraine summoned her magic to destroy the ferry so they couldn't be followed. But the ferryman, thinking only of his family, jumped into the water, trying to return. Sadly, it was too late. Moraine's magic had already taken hold. The group could only watch as he was swallowed by the swirling water, never to be seen again. Moraine felt the weight of the loss, but they had no time to grieve. The beastmen would keep coming. Eventually, they made it to the White Tower, the sacred place of the Aes Sedai. Here, the four teens would be safe for a while. Moraine used her magic to heal the horses and help them rest, but the Aes Sedai couldn't use their powers on themselves. Her wounds were getting worse, and she was growing weaker. That night, Moraine sat with Egwene. She could sense something unique in her. After a test, it became clear Egwene had immense power inside her. It wasn't enough to prove she was the Dragon Reborn, but it meant she was special. Moraine encouraged her to develop her power, saying it would be important down the road. Later, Rand had a nightmare. Something was stuck in his throat. When he pulled out, he found a dead bat. But when he woke up, the bat was still there. It wasn't just a dream. He rushed to tell the others, and to his shock, they had the same dream. Suspicious, they thought Moraine might be behind it. But she insisted it was a warning, something bad was coming, and they had to move. Just then, Lon returned with news. The White Cloaks, fanatical enemies of the Aes Sedai, were nearby. Their leader, the self-proclaimed son of Veda, took sick pleasure in hunting down Aes Sedai and stealing their serpent rings. Moraine had wisely handed hers to Lon earlier, avoiding trouble. With no proof, the White Cloaks let them go, but not happily. That evening, while Perrin was getting water, he noticed the claw mark from a beastman on his leg was still bleeding. Suddenly, a pack of wolves appeared behind him. Terrified, he froze. But instead of attacking, the lead wolf gently licked his wound, then turned and left, the rest following. Perrin was stunned. We got back to camp, it was already dark. Moraine had collapsed from exhaustion. Before anyone could react, the Hidden Demon caught up to them, bringing a horde of beastmen. There was no time to think, they had to run. But their horses refused to go forward. Something terrifying was ahead. As they looked up, they saw the shattered entrance to a giant, cursed city, Shadow City. Even the beastmen were afraid of it. With no other option, Lon led them inside. The place was dead silent, burnt, and eerie. But beneath the ashes and ruins, the group could still feel the echoes of a great city that once stood tall. So, Lon kicked things off with a bit of spooky history about Shadow City. Back during the Beastmen War, while everyone else was trying to stick together and survive, this city decided to do the complete opposite. Instead of helping, they built massive walls and locked themselves away like some grumpy old hermit. But then one night, poof, every single living thing inside just vanished without a trace. People started whispering that the place was cursed, like it had turned into a haunted graveyard overnight. All the dark energy seemed to be coming from the heart of the city, and Lon warned the group to stay away from everything. Like, don't touch anything, don't look at anything too long, just play it safe. But you know how it goes, someone always ignores the rules. Early the next morning, Matt woke up to this strange voice calling out to him. Instead of staying put like a sane person, he followed it and spotted some kind of shadowy figure slipping through the ruins. When he chased after it, He didn't find a person, just a mysterious old treasure chest sitting there like it had been waiting for him. The thing practically begged him to open it. And guess what? He did. Inside was a dagger, all shiny and glowing with red rubies. The voice kept urging him to grab it, and Matt, being curious and maybe a bit reckless, did just that. And that's when everything went straight to hell. The moment Matt touched the dagger, a thick, creepy black sand burst out of nowhere and swallowed their horses. The sand moved like a living thing, swarming and choking everything it touched. In just minutes, all the horses were dead. The rest, completely freaked out, ran off. The rest of the group woke up in panic and rushed outside, but it was too late. The black sand was everywhere, coming at them fast. It split the group apart as it swept through the city like a nightmare. Lon realized they couldn't stay. With Moraine barely hanging on, he threw her on the last horse and bolted. Rand and Matt also managed to escape, slipping through a tight alley that the sand couldn't squeeze through. Meanwhile, Egwene and Perrin had to make a split-second decision. They raced up to the top of the city walls and, with the black sand hot on their heels, jumped. Yeah, from like 100 meters up. Thankfully, a river below broke their fall, but they got separated, and now the gang was split into 3 smaller groups, all trying to survive. Later, while Lon was helping Moraine get water, he got attacked. Someone slashed at his neck. It was Nynaeve. Somehow, she was still alive. Turns out, she'd been dragged off by beastmen for 2 whole days, fully expecting to be their next meal. But oddly, they didn't eat her. She took her chance and made a wild escape, eventually stumbling into a strange cave with a big pool inside. She dove in and tried to stay hidden. The beastmen followed, sniffing around the pool like bloodhounds, but when they looked in the water, she was gone, just vanished. After surviving that nightmare, Nynaeve felt different, stronger. She caught up with Lon and Moraine, patched up Moraine's wounds, and got the update. Rand, Matt, Egwene, and Perrin were all missing. Once Moraine was stable, Nynaeve took off to try and find the others. Luckily, they soon crossed paths with Liandrin, a red Aja Aes Sedai from the 2 rivers. She had a captive with her, a man named Logain, who claimed he was the Dragon Reborn. Thing is, men who can channel the one power are kind of a big deal, and not in a good way. Years ago, the Dark One tainted the male side of the power, so most men who tap into it go mad and dangerous. That's why the Aes Sedai were dragging Logain to the White Tower for judgment. Lon led Moraine and Nynaeve to a camp where another Aes Sedai, Kareen, used her healing powers to completely purge the darkness out of Moraine's system. Feeling way better, Moraine went to check out Logain. The guy had crazy amounts of power, way more than anyone expected. It would have taken 2 Aes Sedai just to contain him. But here's the twist. Logain wanted to get caught. He'd let them imprison him just so he could destroy the place from the inside. And then he made his move. With one deadly look, Logain blasted his cell open and sent the Aes Sedai flying like ragdolls. Chaos broke out as arrows rained down outside. An ambush. But the Aes Sedai weren't pushovers. They fought back hard, redirecting arrows midair and pushing Logain's forces back. Moraine confronted Logain herself, calling him a fraud and mocking him for playing at being the dragon. He didn't care, but just as he turned to face her, Kareen struck with a sneak attack. She and 2 others joined forces to try and cage him again. Logain's power flared up, and the dark energy around him morphed into deadly weapons. That's when reinforcements showed up. Their contract warrior, Stepan, saw Kareen on the ground and completely lost it. He lunged at Logain with his axe, but the power inside Logain lashed out, and Stepan was thrown back. Things were looking bleak. Nynaeve, who had grown close to Lon over the last few days, saw him lying wounded and bleeding out. Something inside her snapped. Her grief and desperation unlocked something deep. An explosion of the one power surged from her. In an instant, she healed everyone nearby, even shocking Logain with how powerful she'd become. The Aes Sedai didn't waste time. They focused all their energy into one final strike and managed to rip the power out of Logain before he could do more damage. Logain, once a man of unstoppable strength, broke down in tears. His hunger for power had unleashed all this destruction, and now he was just a regular man again. But no amount of magic could bring back the dead. The soldiers who gave their lives were buried with honor, and the survivors set their sights on reaching the White Tower. Meanwhile, Rand and Matt, who'd gotten separated, were making their way there too. On the road, they stumbled into this creepy little village with a dark vibe. Apparently, criminals that were locked in iron cages and left to dry out under the sun until they died. Matt, instead of being grossed out, got super interested in a gem one of the dead had on them. When no one was watching, he crept up to the cage to snatch it. But someone saw him. "Hey kid, what do you think you're doing?" It was the village elder, but he wasn't some frail old guy. Matt froze. Turns out, the elder just wanted to give the dead peace. He saw what Matt was after and told him to hurry and get it over with. Then he asked Matt to help bury the body. While that was going down, Rand was inside and nearby and having what started as a chill chat with the innkeeper. But things got weird fast. She tried to kiss him, and when he pulled away, she whipped out a sword. Turns out she already knew Rand and Matt were connected to the dragon legend and wanted to capture them for her own twisted glory. She was already in league with the Dark One. Rand knew he couldn't take her head on, so he bolted, running into Matt just in time. They tried to escape together, but the innkeeper knew the town too well and trapped them easily. She grinned and told him she'd already called for some demonic backup. But before she could say more, a knife flew through the air and hit her throat, bam. The elder had come to save them. He told them to follow him if they wanted to live. With no better option, they tagged along. After a long day of running, they ended up at a farmer's house for the night. But something felt off. Matt noticed a black, sandy substance crawling into his mouth while he slept. Then the farmer's young daughter walked over and offered him bread. She reminded Matt of his little sisters, and for a moment, he softened. The girl even gave him a toy to keep him company. But later that night, Rand and the elder walked in on a horror scene. The whole farmhouse was soaked in blood. Matt stood in the middle of it all, eyes blank, possessed by the dark power. He'd murdered the family without realizing it. The elder told Rand to take Matt and run. He'd stay behind to deal with the demon. Outside, Matt came to his senses. When he saw what he'd done, he was crushed. That guilt would haunt him forever. A month later, they finally made it to the White Tower. Meanwhile, Egwene and Perrin were traveling with a merchant caravan and ended up near the tower too. But bad luck hit again. They ran into the White Cloaks. The son of Valda, their ruthless leader, recognized them and ordered his men to grab them. He cleaned Egwene up, tied her to a chair, and prepped her for judgment. He thought she was an Aes Sedai, and Perrin her warder. To force Egwene to reveal her powers, Valda tortured Perrin, carving into his back. But Egwene wasn't actually an Aes Sedai, and she didn't have the strength to fight back. Valda mocked her, but Perrin snapped. His eyes turned wild, glowing like a wolf's. Then came the howling from real wolves outside the tent. They escaped and found themselves surrounded by wolves. But instead of attacking, the lead wolf howled and ran off with its pack. Perrin realized he might have a strange connection to them, maybe even control. Thanks to that bond, they safely made it to the White Tower too. The next morning, Moraine heard from her sources that something had gone down near the outskirts of the city. Without wasting time, she made her way over to the inn where Egwene and Perrin were staying. The moment she arrived, she found Perrin unconscious and bleeding, with Egwene desperately trying to stop the bleeding. Moraine quickly called for help from the Aes Sedai. If they didn't heal him soon, he wouldn't make it. Egwene, her hands shaking, asked if there was any news about Rand and Matt. Moraine paused and told her she hadn't heard anything yet. But the truth? She had. 2 days earlier, she'd already tracked Rand and Matt down. Matt hadn't been doing well. He was distant, paranoid, like something had taken hold of his mind. It didn't take long for Moraine to figure out what it was. That cursed dagger he had picked up from Shadar Logoth. The dark magic from it was slowly corrupting him from the inside, just like it had twisted Logain. Moraine had acted fast. She performed a dangerous ritual to pull the darkness out of Matt and seal it back into the dagger. Once the curse was contained, Lon locked the dagger away in a chest. Rand was shaken but grateful. It was the first time he started truly trusting Moraine. She warned him, though, the damage to Matt's mind might not be undone so easily. They have to watch him closely. Now that most of the group had made it to the White Tower, Moraine was preparing for the next step, leading the 5 of them, Rand, Matt, Egwene, Perrin, and Nynaeve, to the Eye of the World. That's where the Dark One was imprisoned. According to prophecy, the Dragon Reborn would face him there in a final confrontation. But what she didn't tell them, if someone who wasn't the dragon tried to confront the Dark One, they'd die instantly. With time running out, Moraine opened a waygate, a shortcut through the ancient paths, and stepped through. One by one, the others followed. But just as Matt was about to go in, he stopped. Something in him couldn't commit. Even as his friends called out to him, begging him to come, he just stood there. And then the gate closed. Everyone was stunned. Nynaeve tried to get Moraine to reopen it, but she calmly said it was too late, and even if she could, opening the way gate again would unleash the black wind, and that thing would tear them apart. So they pushed forward, -1. Inside the ways, it was like walking through an endless night. One wrong step and you could fall forever. That's when Perrin, with his strange animal-like senses, noticed something weird ahead. A stone marker, but the writing had been scratched off. Someone had purposely destroyed the directions. That's when Moraine and Lon realized something. Someone was tracking them. Someone had entered the ways after them. They told the group to rest while they figured things out. But as everyone tried to catch some sleep, Egwene started hearing whispers, like voices in the dark. She woke up with a jolt and saw something moving in the shadows. Terrified, she used the one power to protect herself, and that was a mistake. The Black Wind, a malevolent force that lurks in the ways, was attracted to her use of magic. It came screaming toward them, whispering dark thoughts straight into their minds. They ran. When they reached the exit gate, Moraine tried to open it, but the wind was already bearing down on them. It spoke to each of them, feeding their fears. Rand, Egwene, Nynaeve, Perrin, they were all hit hard. Nynaeve, in a burst of desperation, released a massive surge of the one power, shielding the group long enough for Moraine to force the gate open. They barely made it through. Shaken and scared, the group stumbled out into the daylight, landing near Fal Dara, a fortress city on the edge of the Blight. Moraine told them they were close, just a day's walk to the eye of the world now. They rested at Fal Dara, and Moraine met with the city's lord to warn him that the Dark One's forces were on the move. The lord dismissed her at first, thinking his fortress was safe due to the mountain pass. But when she told him the enemy was using the ancient ways, bypassing all natural defenses, he realized the danger and had the city sealed tight. And then, something eerie happened. Paden Fane, the peddler who used to visit the two rivers every year, suddenly showed up at the fortress. But he wasn't there to sell anything. Turns out, he was a dark friend, a human working for the Dark One. He'd been spying on the villagers for years, keeping tabs on the potential dragon reborn candidates. Now, he'd followed them here, and he wasn't alone. While the city prepared for an attack, Rand finally made a decision. He went to Moraine and told her the truth. He was the dragon reborn. Rand had been putting the pieces together. He remembered back when they escaped the cursed city, how the locked door had opened, not because of Matt, but because of him. He remembered how he had somehow fought off Trollocs by himself. And then he visited the seer. The seer told him about his birth, how his father, a warrior with a heron-marked blade, had found a dying enemy woman on a mountain, giving birth in the middle of a battle. The woman died, and the man took the baby, Rand, and raised him as his own. With no doubt left in his heart, Rand told Moraine to take him to the Eye, alone. So the two of them left. Moraine guided Rand through the Blight, a corrupted wasteland full of twisted creatures and living rot. They avoided danger and rested in a ruined building halfway through. But just then, Rand was pulled into a vision, a dream that felt too real. In the vision, he was back in the two rivers. Egwene was his wife. They had a baby. Life was perfect, but then he noticed something strange. The baby froze mid-movement. Time stopped. It was all fake. The Dark One appeared, offering him a deal. Stay in the dream forever, live this perfect life, and join him. Rand was tempted, but he saw through the illusion. Meanwhile, Moraine tried to use the one power to attack the Dark One, but he easily stopped her. Worse, he severed her connection to the one power completely. She was helpless. Back at Fal Dara, the fortress was preparing for war. The Lord ordered the legendary Horn of Alir, said to summon ancient heroes, to be taken out and guarded. But only the Dragon Reborn could use it. The enemy split their attack. On one side, a huge army of beastmen charged the walls. The defenders fought bravely. Nynaeve, Egwene, and the other women joined together and called down lightning using the one power. But it was too much power. One by one, they burned out, unable to control it. When Egwene collapsed, Nynaeve poured all her strength into saving her. The backlash nearly killed Nynaeve. Only Egwene survived, waking up to find her friend barely breathing. On the other side of the city, Paden Fane and his men broke in and stole the Horn of Alir. They slaughtered the guards and fled into the shadows. Perrin and the others saw it happen, but before they could act, Fane spoke to them. He didn't attack. Instead, he told them this was just the beginning, that all of them had a role to play in the future. Then he vanished. And Matt? Matt wasn't in Fal Dara anymore. He had gone back to the cursed dagger and chosen the dark path. Back in the eye of the world, Rand was still locked in the illusion. But then he realized he didn't need to defeat the Dark One with strength. He just needed to reject him. So he reached deep within and pushed back, using the one power to destroy the illusion. The Dark One screamed in rage. With everything he had, Rand blasted him, sealing the eye and forcing the entity back into his prison, for now. Rand collapsed, exhausted. Moiraine asked if he was all right. He nodded, but he didn't want to go back. He knew what people would expect of the Dragon Reborn. He didn't want fame or war. So he asked her to tell the others he had died. And then he disappeared into the wild. At that moment, she felt things were far from over and it wasn't a last battle.